Choosing the right digital audio workstation or DAW for podcast editing is not something we take lightly here at the Pod Sound School. And that's because we work with hundreds of students to launch their podcasts, and we also train professional podcast editors inside of our online coaching programs. So it's critical that we run continued experimentation and constantly compare the most professional and the most widely used DAWs for podcast editing to ensure that we're supporting and teaching the best possible DAW for our students. So in this video, I'm going to share with you our top pick. Well, actually, our two top picks for podcast editing. We'll also talk about the two things you need when choosing a DAW and if it really matters what DAW you use. And I'll finish up this video explaining why two very popular DAWs didn't make the list. You ready? Let's get to it. Hey, welcome to the Pod Sound School. I'm Studio Steve. I'm an audio and video producer and an instructor inside our courses at podsoundschool.com. Let's start off by talking about what it is that we're really looking for when we're choosing a DAW. And really, there's just two very important criteria. And this criteria also happens to be what I call the two stages of podcast editing, the cleanup stage and the processing stage. So the first criteria point that we're looking for in a digital audio workstation is efficiency in that first stage, the cleanup stage, or the editing stage. This is the stage where we remove any unwanted parts, the ums and uhs. We take a long recording and make it more concise and direct for our audience. This is also the stage where you would add music, intros, sound effects, mid-rolls, post-rolls, or even segments. So if you're editing your own podcast every week, and especially if you're editing multiple episodes a week professionally, it is very important that we choose a DAW that gives us the potential to become lightning fast at this cleanup stage. So it needs to have tools that make this process very efficient. Now, the second criteria is compatibility, and this has everything to do with the processing stage. So the processing stage of editing a podcast really involves applying effects, things like compression, EQ, noise reduction, all of the effects that are going to make our voice sound juicy and delicious, broadcast ready, that classic podcast voice that we're used to hearing. And this is the area where I might argue that it really doesn't matter which DAW you choose to use, as long as your DAW is compatible with third-party plugins, specifically VST plugins, most notably by Waves or Universal Audio. Both of those companies make really impressive plugins that far outshine any of the plugins that come built in with any of the various digital audio workstations. So it's important that you choose a digital audio workstation that's compatible with the most professional and most delicious sounding effects. Now, the other element of compatibility that we're looking for with the digital audio workstation, of course, is whether it works on PC and Mac. And then we're also looking for compatibility in terms of, can it run off of a laptop? Can it be portable? And also we want to know if it works seamlessly with apps like Descript that utilize all of this amazing new AI technology. So hopefully now you have an understanding of what you really need a digital audio workstation for. You need one that's going to have some really cool tools that make the cleanup stage lightning fast, and you need one that is compatible with third-party plugins like Waves or Universal Audio. So let's reveal Pod Sound School's top pick. So here are the top candidates: Pro Tools, Adobe Audition, and Reaper. All three of these are the most commonly used digital audio workstations by professionals at the highest level. And that's because with all three of these, you can get lightning fast at that first cleanup stage, and all three of these are also compatible with any of your VST or third-party plugins. All three of them meet those first two criteria. So what's our top pick? Our top pick is Reaper FM. And I will expand on Pro Tools and Adobe Audition in a moment, but the reason that Reaper wins out is because of its compatibility. Reaper is compatible with both PC and Mac. It takes very little CPU power, so it works on even a trashy laptop. It is by far the most customizable digital audio workstation you can find, which really unlocks any number of abilities in terms of how lightning fast you can get. Now, if you want to give Reaper a try, I actually have a free mini course called Free Podcast EditLab. It's a really fun course where you download files, you complete your own podcast edit, and you submit your final edit to us for review. You can sign up for free by going to podcastingsmart.com/free EditLab. And when you complete it, we even send you a certificate. Now, there are two other criteria that people find very important when choosing a digital audio workstation, and that is cost and learning curve. Now, that last one, learning curve, we can go ahead and just cross that off right now because every digital audio workstation takes a good amount of time to learn. You have to start at first with tutorial videos or take an online program and move slowly through the fundamentals so that after practice and repetition, you can get lightning fast at editing, which is really important if you're going to be editing every week. And if you're editing podcasts professionally, if you can cut the time in half that it takes you to edit a podcast episode, you will effectively double your income. Now, remember I said that really we have 2 top picks? And that's because there's another app or software that we teach inside of all of our programs, and that really is something I consider a must-have or a supplemental program for creative professionals and editors, and that is Descript. Now, Descript does work as a digital audio workstation, but it allows you to edit your audio or video like you would a Word document. There are many features in Descript that make the cleanup phase of podcast editing unbelievably fast. One of them is just it's a bit more intuitive to actually read or look at the transcript to make your editing decisions, but also because it has a 2x playback feature, and you can listen at double or even triple the speed while you are making cuts. By doubling the playback speed, you could really cut the whole time it takes you for this cleanup phase in half. Now, Descript is not compatible with third-party plugins or VST plugins like Waves or Universal Audio. Descript does have an AI tool called Studio Sound that sometimes can cut the mustard and is all you really need. But if you really are after that crisp, truly professional audio, then you will need to use Descript with a professional digital audio workstation like Reaper. Descript is compatible with Pro Tools, Adobe Audition, and Reaper. You can make timeline exports and bring your timeline into those programs for that second and critical stage of editing, the processing stage. Descript also allows you to make a timeline export to bring directly into Adobe Premiere. So it really is a workhorse and a must-have. And like I said, Reaper and Descript are what we teach inside of our programs. Now, the other criteria that I sort of washed over was cost, and that's another reason Reaper wins out. It's totally free to download. You can try it for a long period for free. And then when you're ready to purchase, it's a one-time $60. As compared to Pro Tools, which is a $600. And Adobe Audition you get as part of the Creative Cloud. So Adobe Audition is also a wonderful solution if you want to be on a laptop, if you want to have that compatibility. But I find Reaper to outperform Adobe Audition in many ways in terms of efficiency and being able to customize. Reaper also seems to be much easier to teach and to learn in terms of that learning curve than Adobe Audition. Adobe Audition's just a little bit more complicated of a program. So that's why Adobe Audition didn't make the top of the list, is it's a bit more complicated and it's not quite as efficient or as speedy as you can get in Reaper, but it was very close to being right up there with Reaper. And you could use Adobe Audition and be just as fast as you could in Reaper with enough practice. Now, Pro Tools didn't make the cut, which is really a tragedy for me because I am a Pro Tools nut. I love Pro Tools, but in my line of work, I rarely use it. And that's because it's really better suited for the highest level of professionalism at the world-class recording studios. It's best for film production and music production, and really best works with really expensive external equipment rather than more consumer or prosumer style audio interfaces, which is really all a podcast editor or online creative professional needs. Now, speaking of really amazing plugins, check out this really amazing plugin by Waves that I recently made a video of here. It's called a Gate, and it's a must-have for any podcast that has more than one voice. This is a life changer that I know you're gonna thumbs up and subscribe for.